Hey Stampers, Kim from stampingandperfection.com. Welcome to my craft room. I had a video I wanted to share. I was going to do some masking techniques for my Technique a Week video this week, and this card ended up morphing into something totally different than what I had planned. So I decided to make this a separate video, and I will do masking techniques in my Technique a Week video. This is really basic masking. There's so much you can do with masking, so I thought I would share that. It's like one of the first techniques I learned with the very first stamping class I ever took, so I really like masking. You can create lots of fun scenes, and I'm going to make a super simple scene with that fox stamp that you see in front of me there. Now before I forget, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you ring the bell so you get notified when I put a new video up. To start my project, I'm going to take that white cardstock and put it in my MISTI. I like to use some kind of stamp positioner. I happen to have the MISTI. Whatever stamp positioner you have, you use. I love the MISTI, so I saw no reason to try out anything else. The other thing I'm using here is this stamping mask paper from Inkadinkado. I love this stuff. This is the second package of this that I've ever had, and I have really, I'm really frugal with my stamp masking paper, and I mask a lot of things. But you can see this is the first package. I still have quite a bit of that package left, and I have a lot of pieces that I have cut out there. But I keep all the little pieces. I don't just, cut one thing out and then throw the rest away. I'm super stingy with it. And it comes in a nice little packaging envelope there, so you can store those pieces in there, which I like. Other companies also have, like there's Stick-It, has one, masking paper. They're all good, so pick what you have or what you like and use it. And if you don't have it, use plain copy paper and some temporary adhesive. Okay, so this white cardstock, this is Nina Solar White. This is 110 pound. It's cut 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm going to use a little bit of tape runner, and this tape runner is really nice from Altenew because it acts like a temporary adhesive if you don't push it down, like push the paper down super hard on it. So I'm going to put a little bit of that there, and this will peel up very easily. And I'm also going to use my my magnet there. Now I've got this Modern Fox stamp set. This is a layering stamp set, and I quite like this. This is brand new. Now don't throw away that packaging. You remember from my first Technique a Week video, I did a smushing technique, so I save all those packaging pieces, and I use them for techniques. So they make great palettes when you're watercoloring and stuff. So this Modern Fox stamp set has a coordinating die set, so it's got 2 die pieces, and I splurged and purchased the die set because this looked like something I would want to create a scene out of, and I figured it would be easier to use the die cuts than fussy cutting out masks every time I needed to use it. Now the Altenew stamps come with some pictures or diagrams on the back. A lot of times they have a layering guide on the back, so I always save those pieces. You'll notice the fox has 3 different pieces: the body, the legs, and the face, and then the tree has 2 pieces. So I'm pulling out some Altenew inks that I'm going to use, and I'm going to end up pulling out a few more. Altenew has a couple of black inks. They have a dye ink, jet black ink, that I don't use very often. I mostly use that permanent ink pad and this Obsidian ink pad, which they fairly recently came out with. It's a nice detail ink. I'm going to use that orange Firebrick color. I'm going to use milk chocolate and mountain pine for the tree because it is my favorite combination. That mountain pine and that milk chocolate are just my favorite combination of colors. So I'm all set to go here. And when you're masking, whenever you're creating a little scene, you have to decide how you want to lay out your stamps. And sometimes it helps to actually stamp them on a piece of copy paper and then die cut them out and then just fuss around with them. But I didn't go through that today. I just laid my stamps out. I only have 2 things that I'm layering, so I wasn't too concerned about it. this isn't a huge, big, complex scene, which I might plan out ahead of time. Now, when you're doing this, whatever image you want to appear in the front has to get stamped first, and then you're going to mask that so you can do the image that goes in the back. Okay, so I want that fox to appear to be in front of the tree. So I'm just adding a little bit more temporary adhesive because that slid on me. And I know I'm going to need to stamp multiple times here. I didn't condition my stamps, I just went ahead and stamped with them. So I pulled out that Firebrick color and I'm just inking up this fox. And then when I open this, I realized this is actually a little bit dark. So I pulled out my Hazelnut color, which is one of the colors that layers with the milk chocolate ink, and I stamped over the top of my fox with that to mute that orange a little bit. And you can see how I label my ink pads, and I have a little ink swatch there, so it's nice to look at my ink pad holder and find, you know, the colors that I think will go well together. And that gave this a little brown look. So now I'm adding the legs, and I'm stamping them with that Obsidian Pigment Ink. It's a detail ink, and I really like it for those tiny little sentiments that you sometimes get. It actually really does a beautiful job stamping the details. So I'm adding the face, and again, these are really fine lines on the face. So I'm lining it up, and the face was much easier to line up than the legs. I thought the legs were a little hard to line up. So I'm stamping the face in that Obsidian ink. Isn't that pretty? What a gorgeous image. I really love it. And I love that that Firebrick toned down so nicely with that hazelnut stamped on top. So now I've got the fox done. I want to add the tree. And in order to do that, I need to mask the fox. So I'm pulling out my Altenew Mini Blossom die cutter. I love this die cutter, and I'm just checking to see because it's only about 3 inches wide, so I want to make sure that tree is going to go through it. I love this little die cutter. For less than $50, I have this little die cutter that's always sitting on my desk, and I do a lot more techniques and die cutting things that I might not have because my big die cut machine is like across the room, so you know it's not conveniently located on my desk. So I'm just cutting up some masking paper, and I'm going to save those other scraps, and I'll save the rest of this tree piece also because there will be some floral images I want to mask. So that won't get, the rest of that will not get thrown away. There's going to be tiny little things I want to mask, and I will save that, the rest of that. So I'm just die cutting out the masks from that Inkadinkado stamping mask paper. So save that. I put it immediately back into the package so it doesn't get lost on my desk because I don't want to waste it. So I do the same thing with the fox, and I'm going to put aside, I'll put the dies back on the packaging, and later I'll get some, a magnet, a little piece of magnet board that will hold those dies on that sheet. When I put it away, I'll share that with you at the end of the video. And I'm just putting the mask over the top of that fox. Now if I fussy cut, I'll stamp the image onto that masking paper, and then I'll fussy cut the image just inside the line, and you'll see why that works better than actually doing it with the die cuts. So I'm inking up the tree, and that's the mountain pine. These are all Altenew inks that I'm using here today. And I'm going to do this twice because I got a big gap, but you're always going to have a little gap between the masking and the paper. Just know that. Sometimes you can like fill it in with markers, which I'll do a little bit of later. And now this, remember, has a second layer. So that's the top part of the tree, and it's got a nice little branch layer in it. So I'm going to put that down there next. And I'm kind of peeking at that picture that came on the stamp package to see where exactly they lined that up. And this is the milk chocolate. This is one of my favorite Altenew color combinations, the mountain pine and the milk chocolate. This makes beautiful pine cones for Christmas. So now I can peel back. This is always a favorite part. I can peel back and see, and you can see there's a little white gap. Had I fussy cut that, I would have cut inside the edge of that fox image on that masking paper, and I wouldn't have a white gap there. So I'm putting that fox mask back in place, and now I'm going to put the tree mask on top because I want to create a scene, and I like to make my own backgrounds. Like I have a couple of snowbank videos that have a lot of views, but now I want to make hills. And I'm over the snowbanks for the season. It is May. I do not want to see another snowflake. So I am going to make mountains. And so I'm pulling out a few different colors of green. I have fresh leaf, I have moss, I have forest glades. I'm just pulling out some colors that are not as dark as that tree. So, I don't want the hills I'm creating to blend in too much with the tree. So I pulled out one that was a little too close and I put it back. So I'm going to pull out some of my blender brushes. Now, while I'm doing this, you'll notice that I have a little trouble blending on this paper. I part of the way through making this card, I wished I'd put it on Bristol paper. Bristol paper blends so beautifully. It's nice heavy white cardstock. I just used the Strathmore Bristol paper that you can buy at Michael's or whatever craft store. You can order it from Dick Blick online. And I'm going to make I pulled out an overhead transparency that I have left over from my teaching days. And I just cut a wavy part out, and then I'm going to cut down the other side of that. I'm just going to clip that off, put the rest of that transparency away for later. But this gives me two different hill shapes. So I am going to start, and I'm just taking one of the colors, and I think this is the lighter one. This is the fresh leaf, because I kind of wanted it to be lighter closer to me and then darker farther away. It doesn't work out to be that way in the end, but now I'm taking the next color, which I believe is the forest glades, and these are pretty yellowy green colors. They'll work just fine for hills. These aren't really mountains, more hills. And I'm just going to keep blending. It's not blending great, and I'm getting big blobs of color, which doesn't usually happen with the blender brushes. So I'm just going to blend till my stuff looks the way I want it to. So I'm going to take some of that lighter fresh leaf and just blend over the top of it so it sort of, looks like I've got it all blended together. So, keep fussing with it till you get what you like. Now, I just moved the same stencil up, and I was sorry that I did that because, I don't want all my hills to look the same. That's not what nature looks like. So I'm taking the other one back out, and I'm going to flip it over. So it looks like I have one rolling hill moving into the next. And then I'm going to use some of the darker colors, and I'm going to kind of fit that over the top so that I get a line there. I want there to be a line. Now, as I'm doing this, I realize that brush wasn't completely clean. Even though I've already used it for some of the green, something else is coming off there. It almost looks like a dark blue or gray, but you know what? That works out okay for me. Like looks a little sloppy right now, and that's what I'm thinking too as I'm doing it. I'm thinking this does not look that tidy, and this is not blending the way I would like it to. So I'm gonna fuss with this part some more, and I want to get right up to the edge of that piece of transparency there, because making the edge of that a little bit darker will actually make the next hill stand out, because then I can make that a little lighter. So, I'm trying going in circles, I'm trying going back and forth, and I've been watching a lot of Vicky Boutin, and she said that if you have trouble blending, squirt your blender brush with a little bit of water, and it'll go on, the ink will go on smoother. And it really did. That was a great tip. And if you haven't watched Vicky Boutin, she has some free classes on scrapbook.com, and she has a lot of products, mixed media. She's a mixed media artist, and she designs a lot of products, and fantastic products. And she's been doing a lot of Facebook and YouTube lives, so definitely hop over there. She does Friday night on YouTube and Wednesday afternoon on Facebook, I think. And she's got a lot of videos on mixed media techniques, which are really fun. But that little blending tip was very useful for me. Like, spritz your brush with a little bit of water, and it does go on a lot easier. So I'm putting another hill behind it, and I'm still not loving the way this is looking. I had to figure out how to fix this. I'm sort of like just hand doing this with the little brush. I don't have a stencil above it to be a stopping point, so I'm kind of trying to make it look like it goes down a little bit back up behind the other hill. So I'll keep fussing with this, and in the end it'll be okay, because it's just blended ink. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to give the illusion of hills. And so, I'm blending 3 different colors here, just sort of going along. I still have to do the bottom part of that also, so I can't forget about that. And you notice that I keep flipping those stencils around. That's a beauty of like creating a little stencil for yourself out of like a transparency. You can make it out of cardstock. Mylar would be fantastic. So I just actually squirted that directly onto the cardstock there, just to get it to blend a little bit. I was just really struggling because this paper was not the last package of the Nina Solar White I got. I'm really struggling to get colors to blend well on, and it's like one side is super smooth and the other side has a little texture, and I think I just flipped this the wrong way. So I'm removing all my all the plastic pieces are gone. I still have my 2 masks on there, and I feel like I'm looking at it thinking, this needs something. I don't love this. And, I've got that cute fox and that tree on there. So it needs sky. So I pulled out the eastern sky, and I just started blending away. And I don't want my sky to be perfect. I want some white spots to show. I want it to be darker in some spots. And I need to take it right to the top of that hill that's there. So I'm just going to fill in that white with some of this pretty eastern sky color, and it is so pretty. Now, I could have pulled out a couple of blues and blended, but at this point, I was pretty sick of blending. And I wasn't sure this was going to turn out in any way, shape, or form to be a card that I would like to send anyone. So, having my doubts here, but I didn't give up. I'm very tenacious. That's a baby wipe, by the way, that I'm wiping that onto. And clearly I need to clean my brushes, so I will do that later. So I pulled out some of that milk chocolate colors. I thought, under the tree and under the fox, let me add a little milk chocolate and see how that looks. And then I wanted to add it to the top of that upper hill, because I feel like it should look a little different. And I just felt like it needed something. And so I just kind of took that. Notice I'm using this smaller brush so I can kind of control where it's going. And I'll just blend it in with the green a little bit. And I'm not, you know, still not in love with it, so I'm going to put a little bit more of that moss green on it. And it's okay for that farther one to look darker. I want that. And, you know, I'm just trying to now blend the colors together. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to fuss with it until I blend the colors together. So now, big reveal, I'm taking off the mask. And notice I put it back on the backing paper. And this can be reused over and over until it doesn't stick anymore. And I'm pulling out my tweezers to pull the fox back. And all of a sudden I realize I actually quite like that background. The background looks pretty when you look at it. It looks like hills. I'll be darned. It looks like hills in the sky. And it looks like, I don't know, I don't want to say more sophisticated, but that looks like Wile E. Coyote and a cartoon tree in front of an actually pretty background. So I've got to fix that. I actually took this into my husband and said, "What do you think?" He goes, "Oh, well," and I said, "Wile E. Coyote, right? Cartoon tree and fox." And he agreed with me. So I'm going to pull out my Set E markers. These are alcohol markers from Altenew, the artist markers. And this set has the 4 orange colors that layer together. And one of those is the Firebrick color. So I'm going to take all 4 of these and I'm going to flick along the edges of the fox to make it look sort of like hair. And then I'm going to do flicks and dots in the 4 different orange colors. And I'm just going to work on it all around his whole body. And a little bit, I'm trying to do some flicking into that white space left by the mask around the edge. You can see me doing that there. And I want to leave that white inside the tail because that's what a fox's tail looks like. And I'm trying to still make sure you can see his leg where he's sitting. And now I'm taking a lighter color and I'm filling in some of the spaces on what I stamped in the Firebrick and the Hazelnut. And I'm just filling in with flicks and dots. You know, I want to make this look like fluffy fur. It just was so flat. That's what my husband said. He goes, "It just really looks flat. These 2 things look flat. They need more dimension or texture." And he was 100% correct. That's exactly what they need. They need more texture. And you can do that by using your alcohol markers and making some little flicks, little tiny flicks. And it took a little patience. But doesn't that look better? That looks so much better. Got out my gel pen, put a couple dots in the eye, and lo and behold, I like it. Now I need to do the same thing to the tree. So I'm pulling out one of the greens from, I think this is Set A, the darker one. And I'm going to do the same thing, little flicks and dots. And then I'm going to use the 4 greens that are in that Set E with the oranges. And I'm just going to keep filling it in. And I'm going to flick into some of that white space and look at the difference. I just kept filling in little dots and flicks, not covering up the brown from the milk chocolate branches. And that looks so much more textured and so much more dimensional. Like, it really made a huge difference. Plus, I covered up some of that white around where the mask was. You know, with a die cut, you expect to get that white, but not when you mask. So next time I'll fussy cut it and not use the die. So that's gonna complete my card. I'll add a sentiment, but I wanted to share with you how I store these. I have these Avery L. These are nice, heavy plastic bags, or like, you know, plastic envelopes. And I store my dies right on that, and later I'll put a piece of magnet in. It won't be a whole magnet sheet. It'll just be a strip of magnet that will hold those dies in place. And I keep that paper that came with it because I like having the picture. And I'm also going to keep my masks right in that package, and that's how I store my stuff. And then I kept the parts that I didn't use on that paper in the Inkadinkado thing, and I'm going to keep those hill things, and now they can be used for snowbanks, hills, whatever, but I can use those over and over. So thank you so much for watching. Stop by my blog at stampingimperfection.com. Please give this video a like and share with your friends, and make sure you subscribe to my channel and ring that bell. Thanks for watching.